over 200 years of the rules of evidence.
Thompson,
it's just not
criminal
what we do.
defense attorney out of Fort Lauderdale, shaking his head. Why, Adam?
Well, I got to agree with what he's saying. You know, by its nature, character evidence is usually so overwhelmingly prejudicial, and a lot of times doesn't go to the heart of the matter, so it's kept out. But I will say this, in this case, there was some presentation by the defense that he had a calm demeanor or maybe was nonviolent in some way. Now, the prosecution could have argued that the door was now open, that if the defense was going to say, hey, he's a calm and mild-mannered person, well, now you got to hear the flip side of that and introduce these other types of statements or this other evidence. So I think if they made the pitch to the judge, given these circumstances, they might have got it in and they would have been able to use it.
John Phillips, attorney for Jordan Davis's family, you interviewed this man, and that's where he put these explosive claims against the defendant, Michael Dunn, on videotape. Now, I understand if the judge said these aren't allowed, but did the prosecution even try to get these in? Did they even make an attempt to show, for example, the jailhouse letter where he expresses, you all heard it, you can decide whether it's racist, it sounds racist to me. Now this guy, his neighbor, saying, oh, he used to express racist comments to me. Did they try to get any of this in?
You know, I don't know. It certainly didn't come in open court. There were 200 hours of jailhouse phone calls. There were dozens and dozens of letters, and there were witnesses like this, not to mention the big gap of Michael Dunn's life. Everybody that testified as to his reputation in the community was his dad's community or his ex-wife from 2 years ago, three ex-wives removed. There's so much there that really wasn't explored that really will give you a depiction of who this guy really was.
Look, John Phillips, you're the attorney for the family of the young man who was killed. The jury went home today after deliberating 11 hours and 43 minutes all told. Some are looking at the fact that they all wanted to have dinner at the hotel as there's a divide. The questions they asked today, there's a divide. This is now dragging on. If there is an acquittal, how will your client, how will the parents of Jordan Davis feel about that, given all these allegations we're learning?
They've known that this man had these things about him since for a year now, and they've reconciled that, and they've reconciled some of the wise points that have been brought out about the criminal evidence standard, that this just wasn't, you weren't allowed to try this man's character in a murder trial, which to me is a little ridiculous. I get your point, and I agree with you. But, you know, ultimately we feel like there's going to be a conviction, and, you know, we're hoping and praying for that.
Well, listen, if I had a nickel, and I'm not saying there is or isn't, I have no idea. I'm not in the jury room. I don't know what they're saying. But I have sat for years in this very same situation at different cases where all the experts, all the wise people with all the legal degrees say there's going to be a conviction, and it doesn't happen. It didn't happen with Michael Jackson. Right. It didn't happen with Casey Anthony. It didn't happen with O.J. Simpson. The list goes on and on and on. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I say you throw everything at that wall and see what sticks. That would be my school of thought. I might have to go to law school. Let's go out to the phone lines. Andre, New York, you have been so patient, Andre. What do you have to say, Andre, New York?
Thank you, Ms. Velez Mitchell, for having me. I just want to first say that the kids that are Davis's friends, all of them are good kids. America wants to stigmatize African-American males all the time and basically create this image that they'll do anything, that they're possible of doing such bad things, saying that that one of them had a shotgun. That's crazy. This guy, Dunn, was created by the negativity of American society. He's allowed, and he's given this entitlement to do and say and act however he feels. My grandparents used to tell me about how it was when they were younger in South Carolina. They would say, you know what, if you see a Caucasian person, you better respect them. You better don't look them in the eye. You better step off the sidewalk. Like, this image about black people is horrible. Unfortunately, Dunn is he's like a Frankenstein. He was created by this Americanized idealistic things.
Let me just say this, and I want to say I don't want to generalize about anybody and assume that people are going to be morally corrupt or spiritually bankrupt. I believe that this notion of, prejudice, personally, I think it's part of the human condition. It's a character defect that we all have to grapple with in different ways. Different people have biases about different things, but it's something that I think it's a character defect that comes with being a human being that we have to confront and deal with. But I want to go to Boyce Watkins, social commentator, founder of Your Black World. What are your thoughts about the fact that the jury did not hear anything that painted in any way, shape, or form a remotely negative impression of Michael Dunn's past? But they did about Jordan Davis.
It's very interesting. Right. I mean, it's very interesting that we are allowed to perpetuate an entire myth of thug-like behavior on the part of Jordan Davis, but yet the real thug-like behavior that has been proven and that has witnesses on the part of Michael Dunn is not allowed in court. I mean, the same way we have rape shield laws where you can't bring someone's past into the courtroom, I think we need murder shield laws that protect the victims from being torn apart in court and really being put on trial. I mean, understand, Jordan Davis has been on trial, but for some reason, when it comes to Michael Dunn, we're sort of hands off. And I think this guy might get off because we're not prosecuting him the way we should be.
Well, I mean, is that the fault of the prosecutors?
We don't have evidence of thuggery.
Is that the fault of prosecutors? Do they not play dirty? Did they not learn the lessons of the George Zimmerman case? All right, we're just getting started. Stay right there. We're going to play some more of this interview that we did and more of the interview that he gave to the family of Jordan Davis's attorney, these explosive allegations against Michael Dunn. I want to say that we reached out to the attorney